Hello and welcome to the Google Analytics tutorial series. I'm Matt Landers, and in this tutorial we'll learn about user properties. We'll go over what they are and why they're valuable to you, and then we'll create and report on our own custom user property. In a previous tutorial, we saw how events allow you to collect data about what people are doing on your website or app. For example, you saw how to measure page views and button clicks through automatically collected events and custom events. These events are great for measuring user activity, but it can also be useful to understand the users who are interacting with your website or app so that you can segment the data around these identifiers and make more sense of your users. For example, are certain age groups engaging with your website more often than others? Or are users from certain countries interacting with certain pages more than other pages? User properties can help you understand your results better so that you can personalize your website or app and improve your user experience. The same way events populate dimensions and metrics in your reports, user properties populate dimensions, and some of these dimensions are available for you automatically. These include what browser is being used, the country, device, language, platform, region, and more. And you can find a complete list of predefined user dimensions in the video description below. All right, sometimes you want to group users into categories that are meaningful to your business but aren't defined by Google. For example, let's say we want to know the role a user plays in their organization. For our demo, this could be broken down into marketers, developers, or business owners. We can enable our users to self-identify and save this as a user property. This way, we can better curate our content to the different types of users. When we include this event on a page, each event on the page will be associated with the user property value. For example, if someone chooses developer instead of marketer, the page view, click, and scroll events will all have a job role user property associated with it that has a value of developer. As a best practice, we recommend creating a range or a few values that user properties can have to make reporting easier and so that you don't hit any cardinality limits. For instance, don't create a user property that is unique for every user. The goal is to group users into buckets that you can analyze and act on. It isn't a place to store information about an individual user. Now that we know a little more about user properties, let's jump over into our demo and set one up. All right, we're on the home page of our demo site that we've been working on throughout this series, and I've created a new page, a profile page, so the user can go to their profile and they can select their job function. And they can select business owner, developer, or marketer. I'm just going to select developer, and they can click submit. Now when the user makes that selection, we want to save that selection onto the user in Google Analytics as a user property. So there's a lot of different ways we could do this. We could use G-tag, which would make us have to go into our website and edit our code. But I want to show you a way to do this without editing your website at all. We do have to write a little bit of code, so bear with me. But it makes it really simple to just use GTM for everything. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to go to GTM. We're going to first create a variable, and this is where the coding comes in. We'll create a new variable, and we will use custom JavaScript for this. And what we have to do is we just have to write a function. I'm going to call it getJobFunction. And it just returns a value. So it's going to return the value of the selection in the drop-down box. And how we can do that is we can use document.getElementById. The name of that drop-down box, or the select box, is JobFunction. And I'll show you that in a second. And then I can do .value. So I'm just returning the value that was selected by the user. So let's go over to our code real quick. And we'll see this select box here. So the ID is job function. That's what we're using in the JavaScript. And then the value will be the value here of whatever the user selected. So in our case, we selected developer, or whatever the user selects, it's going to make it into that variable. So let's go back over to GTM, and we'll see this is pretty straightforward. We're grabbing the document, which is the web page. We're getting it using getElementById on a job function, and we're returning the value of whatever the user selected. So let's call this variable job function. We'll save that. And now what we want to do is we want to trigger whenever we should actually save this. So let's go ahead and create a trigger. Let's create a new form submission trigger. So we'll call it form submission, and it's our profile form. So we'll just put profile here. And we'll go down and we'll choose a new form submission. Now we've done this in previous tutorials, so I'm not going to dive into all the details here, but we only want this to happen on some forms. And this is going to be our profile form. So the form ID is called profile form. That's also in our HTML. We'll save this. And now we just need to go create a tag. So we'll go to our tags. We'll create a new tag. We're going to call this our GA4 Event, if I can type. And this is going to be our profile update event. So it's whenever the user updates their profile, we're going to fire this event. It's going to trigger on that form submission of the profile. And we're just going to go configure this as a GA4 event. We select our config, just our default GA4 config that we created earlier in the series. And then we're going to name this event just profile update. Now, in order to get it on the user properties, all we have to do is go down here to user properties, add a row, and we're going to call the user property job function. And then we're going to use the value for that will be the variable that we created, job function, with that custom JavaScript. We're going to save this. Now we'll go to preview to make sure everything's working. So we'll click preview. That'll allow us to open our website with our tag assistant. Now we have our website open with Tag Assistant running, which we've gone over this in other tutorial videos as well on how Tag Assistant works. So definitely check that out if you don't know what this is. But it allows us to see all of the debug information that's happening as we click around our site. All right, so we'll go to profile. We'll select, let's just do business owner. We'll hit submit, and we'll go back over to Tag Assistant, and let's see what happened. So on our form submit, we can see that we have different variables. We have business owner in our job function variable that we created in GTM. And if we click on our Google Analytics tag, so right now we're on our container. If we click on our Google Analytics tag, we can see that a profile update event was sent. And if we scroll down to the bottom here, we'll see that the job function variable or user property was set to business owner. All right, I know that might have been a lot, but it was pretty simple to go in to GTM, grab the value out of that form, and then add that to the user properties of an event. So we created a new event called profile update. And that's just a custom event that we're sending through. So we'll be able to analyze that in analytics as well and see how often users are updating their profile. And then we'll have that information on the user whenever they update their profile so that we can use that job function to slice and dice in our reports and separate our users based on their different job functions and see how they behave differently and how maybe they convert differently as well. So hopefully this gave you a good overview on how user properties work, how you can get them into the system, and then use them in your reports in order to see your users in different ways based on the properties that you set for them. All right, thank you for learning this tutorial series. If you have any questions, definitely join our Discord community where you can get answers from the community and sometimes from Googlers like myself and my team will jump in and answer your questions as well. So join that. There's a link in the description. And until our next series, happy measuring.